Welcome to A Terrible Football Show, episode 58. I'm Alex Light with Spark 3. Hope you're having an incredible day today. Whatever day you're watching this, whether if you're watching live alongside of us, watching after the fact, or listening to the show after the fact. We appreciate the hell out of you. Just me and Shane here today, just like some old times. We got Jacob's out sick. Ricky's also out sick. Obviously, T's and P's, both of them. Hopefully they feel better. But Shane, how you doing? How you feeling? You're not sick, right?
Not sick at all. Not
That's good.
sick.
Me either. We're good.
The rain.
And the rain do be kind of annoying, but at least you're not under the weather. T's and P's to the other boys. Hopefully they feel better soon. But I mean, Shane, we're gonna have a good time today. We're gonna have a good time.
Oh yeah, throwing it back to the OG days.
There you go. So for today's episode, we will be doing some listing here, top fives for the best players of the 2022 season. As a shout to that, I do have a list from Ricky for some of his. I haven't got anything from Jacob. If he sends it to me in the middle of the show, I'll make sure to shout it out for him. He may have actually responded, did he? I don't know. I don't think he did. Let me look. No. But if he fires it off during the show, that's fine. I'll shout it out for him. But me and Shane's got some lists here, and I'm kind of interested to hear some of Shane's picks here. And I feel like I've got some interesting ones as well for a few positions. Few positions I feel like are pretty straightforward. But there are some where I feel like I get a little bit on the spicy side, but not too much, So definitely looking forward to diving into that. We'll briefly chat about a few things going on in the NFL right now, as well as kind of some very quick general thoughts on XFL Week 1. As I know, me for sure did not have time to watch anything like I wanted to. I had family down this weekend. And I had something I had to take care of this weekend. So I definitely did not have time to watch anything except for highlights, unfortunately. This weekend will probably be the same thing. I'm going to be very busy this weekend, so it may not be till XFL Week 3 when I can finally sit down and watch some stuff. But either way, I am looking forward to actually watching some games, even though my team, Orlando Guardians, got absolutely dog-walked. And shout out to Paxton Lynch for being benched in the XFL, CFL, NFL, and USFL. He's a legend, truly a legend. Unfortunate, very unfortunate. Let me stress that, very unfortunate. But if you could, make sure to check out some Rogue Energy. Referral link down below. They just launched the Rainbow Candy and Strawberry Bubblegum hydration flavors. I'm looking forward to trying them. Mostly the Rainbow Candy, the Skittles one, I'm definitely looking forward to trying, get my hands on and trying. As well as heading over to Agent Inc. and buying a jersey because they're sick and they have a trash can on it, and who wouldn't want that? Join the Discord as well. You can come chat with us. So go ahead and turn down the music now. Shane, overall, how you doing, man? How's your weekend been? How was your week and stuff? How you feeling? Did you get to watch any XFL, or are you kind of in the same boat as me where you just didn't have time? Because I definitely did not.
I watched highlights.
Like me, okay.
Yeah. So got to watch my Battlehawks pull off a insane comeback win.
Shout out to AJ McCarron.
Shout out to the college Alabama GOAT.
Yep.
And got to watch Danucci throw a touchdown to Josh Gordon, so that was interesting.
Shout out to Josh Gordon. Is this the Josh Gordon?
It is.
Oh, that was
with
funny.
The Seattle Sea Dragons.
Oh, I know. I understand why they added the C part to it, but I wish they would have just kept it Seattle Dragons. You know what I mean? Like they did in 2020. But what are you going to do? I mean, do you kind of feel that sentiment that you wish they would have dropped the C and just kept it Seattle Dragons, or do you like the Seattle Sea Dragons more?
I mean, I like the Seattle Sea Dragons, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I understand, like, if you look at all Seattle's professional teams, except for the Supersonics back in the day, they all have to do with some, like,
water.
Great water creatures,
Yeah. Or just something involving water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, now we have the Kraken for an NHL, then we have the Mariners, then, of course, the Seahawks, now the Sea Dragons, and the Supersonics. They were the one oddball of the group. Let me ask you this, because there's been chat about this for years. If Seattle gets an NBA team back, do you think it's just going to be the Supersonics, or do you think they're going to go something more on brand?
No, it's got to be the Supersonics.
In my mind, it's got to be the Sonics. It's got to be.
That's honestly the whole reason why I'm a big fan of Seattle.
Like the Sonics.
Yeah, because the Supersonics, and then like I found out that they had a pro team, so that's when I first found like the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Because back in the day, I was more interested in watching basketball than I was watching football, and Gary Payton was like one of my top players that I liked watching, and then he was on the Supersonics for a long time, so I just naturally watched a lot of Supersonics games.
That's fair. If they bring back the Sonics, do you think they'll at least change the color scheme to be on brand? Because let's be honest, like every Seattle Pro team has at least some variation of blue. Do you think they'll change it to change the colors, but still be the Supersonics, or just be the green and yellow?
No, they've got to keep it
Gotta
the
gotta
green
go
and
full
yellow.
OG. Gotta
Got
go
to
full
keep it
OG.
green and yellow,
Okay,
dude.
gotta go full OG. Got it.
Yeah, got to. I mean, you can rebrand it to be kind of a new age look
Yeah, yeah.
and not have the same
New
like,
logo and
old.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I mean, I've seen some fucking like
Mock-ups.
playing like 2K and stuff. I've seen some mock-ups
Right.
that people just design themselves, and it looks pretty dope. So I mean, if they were to do something close to that, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. What were we talking about? Football. Oh, Seattle Sea Dragons. That's what we were talking about. Okay,
Yep.
okay, yeah, my bad. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking forward to actually getting a chance to watch some XFL. Like I said, I was busy this weekend with family down, some other stuff that come up, and this weekend I'm gonna be busy as well. But definitely looking forward to sitting down and actually getting a chance to watch it. Also, kind of peeped the USFL draft as well. I thought that was kind of interesting with some of the picks made across the board. There were some,
Yeah,
yeah, that
because
was an interesting
it
thing.
was like the college draft, right? So they
Yeah,
drafted players that were like coming, like trying to get drafted. So like
yeah. Some
I'm
of these guys,
interested in
they
that
might get.
because like the Stallions, the team that I kind of been following through the USFL the most, because of Bo Scarborough, they drafted Malik Cunningham at
I saw that.
Louisville.
I saw that. Yeah.
Like I figured he would get drafted into the NFL, maybe like sixth or seventh round, but I figured somebody would give him a shot.
Yeah, see, that's my mindset too. So, like, what's going to happen come April, and a team does draft Malik in like the sixth or seventh round? Well, if you're Malik, which way do you go? Because I mean, a sixth, seventh rounder. I mean, there's not even a guarantee you're making it on a roster. I mean, or do you want to go with the possibility of just making a roster, but not even being a starter, or being a starter, somewhere else? You know what I mean? Because I mean, like, even if you get drafted in the NFL sixth, seventh round, I mean, the money's gonna be more, yeah, and money's important, but it's like, there's pros and cons to both, is what I'm trying to say. I know
Yeah, for
99%
sure.
of the human population is like, oh, just go to the NFL, even if you are drafted in the sixth or seventh round. But there's also the other small percentage of like, no, I'd go to the USFL, because I'm gonna probably start and play and get better and continue to prove that I'm better and might get signed as a free agent somewhere. There's two different sides to that. You know what I mean?
Like honestly, I probably would go to USFL. I mean, you
Right.
play well in USFL and you hit free agency, then you get to pick where you want to go and play your rookie year.
Yeah. Yep. Well, unless a team does draft you and you still choose USFL, then they have your rights, whatever. But I mean, then again,
Yeah, true.
they could just release you. You're a sixth, seventh round rookie. I don't think they give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
There was a couple players drafted in the USFL draft that I was just like, okay, that's cool, but I could see them getting drafted. Like one of them was that Tyler Jensen, I think's his name, tackle from like South Dakota or South Dakota State. That was a guy that even Ricky shout out, like, we're just like, hey, keep an eye on him. He could be a sleeper, in the later rounds, and I do agree. I mean, keep an eye out for him. Yeah, I think he was drafted in the later rounds for the USFL, and he could potentially get drafted in the NFL too. So we'll see how that goes.
It was interesting. They have 10 rounds in their
Yep.
college draft or whatever. So
Yeah. Also, speaking of draft stuff, next week we will be releasing our mock 2.0s. Hopefully, Ricky and Jacob will not be sick and can make it back, and we can all do our 2.0s together. I feel like that's a good way to cap off, the end of season 2 going into season 3, because coming into season 3, after next week's episode, we're taking a break first week of March, coming back second week of March, which is the beginning of free agency, and we'll kind of have a better idea of where we need to lean towards our mock 3.0s, maybe like a week after free agency or something, or at least the week after the first week.
yeah.
Will kind of give us an idea of where to lean with our 3.0s. I started working on my 2.0 today, and I'm getting some spicy stuff together. I will say that there are some predictions I've got, just from some things that I'm kind of following around the league right now. So I'm looking forward to it. But I will say, like, there's a part of me, like, so far in my couple of like quick ones that I've done, just kind of like, what about this? What could they do that? Could they do it? I still have continuously put like Bryce as the consensus number one overall pick. But guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it may be someone else, actually. I think someone else could snag that number one overall spot. Not Anthony Richardson, though. Not like that CBS mock I sent you guys earlier. That's just so stupid. That shit is so stupid. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing like Twitter videos
Yeah.
and all these like people that cover the NFL, like they're just like jaw dropped about Anthony Richardson's ability to do this, and I'm like, bruh, you're throwing your team under the bus.
Like, why, dude? Because it's like, if there was a lot of like flash of potential, yeah, sure, we can chat about it. But like the only potential he's shown is like being potential of being like a playmaker runner. But in terms of passing, he has shown no freaking potential. He hasn't done anything. So like that's when I get so mad about all these Lamar Jackson comparisons. It's like they're two different players, like completely. Lamar Jackson was actually successful at being a college quarterback and successful at being a pro quarterback. Anthony Richardson can't even be successful at being a college quarterback. I can't.
I mean, yeah, he has the least amount of starts in a long time coming, getting rid of the droughts. I think I saw he has like what, less than 13 games or something like that, and I think at least 4 of those
I
he
think
was
he started
benched
for 2
in.
seasons, haven't he? I could be wrong, but I think he started for 2 seasons.
I'm not sure. I saw something that was
Okay.
like 13 games of tape or something like that.
That's probably real tape, yeah. I mean, the only other comparison to that would obviously be Trey Lance. You know, he only started for 1 season of college.
Yeah.
You know, and now in the pros, he's barely started anything. I mean, yeah, you're not too far off because looking at his stats, this was the first full season that he started. And then last year, he played in 7 games. And his freshman year, he played in 3 and didn't really do anything in 3 games, of course. So, I mean, he's barely got any tape. And I don't know, man. Like, everyone's just like looking for like the next, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, like those guys that can turn into that sort of player. But man, and everyone's talking about the comparison and the potential for it, but like I'm staying with my stance of what potential has been shown. You know what I mean? He hasn't done anything. You know, if he's done something cool, let's chat about it. I'm all about like potential. 'Cause that's what Josh Allen was. Josh Allen, he wasn't he didn't like blow up the stat boards in college, but he was at least a somewhat successful. He was a successful Mountain West quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, once he got up against other talent, the talent around him did not stack up to the talent that was in front of him. His talent did. His talent was raw and could be developed, and he showed actual potential. But, like, dude, I don't see that potential in AR. I just don't. Not as a passer, that is. I see the potential as a runner, 100%. I think he could be an excellent playmaker, no doubt about that. That potential's there, but just as a passer, I just don't see it. That's me. And I'll say even for my mock 2.0, I still got Anthony Richardson not going in the first round. I acknowledge that it's probably going to happen because some team's going to get like super, super desperate, but I think it's all smoke still. I think we're going to get a repeat of last year where there was all this chat of Malik Willis could go all the way in top 10, could have 4 quarterbacks go in the first, and we had Kenny Pickett at 20, and the next one was until the 3rd round.
Yep.
I'm kind of feeling the same way with AR this year. I think there's going to be all this chatter, and then he's going to end up slipping late into the first or into the second. That's my opinion. But what do I know? It's a terrible football show.
I wouldn't take him until even later. I wouldn't take him till 3rd, to be honest, but that's just me.
I mean, I'm with you. I wouldn't take him till 3rd or 4th, personally, if you want to take a shot on him. If he's still there in 3rd or 4th, yeah, snag him. You know what I mean? You could have a really solid, quarterback to try to grow. And there are some teams in the first round that I could see taking a shot, just based on the situation that they are in, I've seen a lot of people have AR going to Detroit with their 2nd first-round pick because, you still have Jared Goff. He can learn behind and set behind for a few years and stuff. But even then, I mean, I like Jared Goff personally. I'd keep running with Jared Goff over AR any day. That's my opinion. But like I said, what do I know? It's a terrible football show. All right.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, a couple news bits from the NFL from this past week we can throw out there. So, number one, it's looking more and more likely like Derek Carr is going to go to the Jets. Apparently, the Jets think he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he's in New York. I don't know about that one, but I definitely think he could be successful there.
Yeah, I saw where the Jets told him that if he wins in New York, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's a stretch to put it lightly.
That's it's a little white lie there.
Yeah, you just I mean, I get it. You're trying to get your guy. I mean, I respect that, but it also kind of makes me think like, are the Jets now out on Aaron Rodgers? I did see a report earlier that the Packers would actually like to have Aaron Rodgers back. So But I don't know. Does that mean the Jets are out on Aaron? Which there was already a lot of signs pointing towards Aaron towards Vegas, which I still think is a possibility. But at the same time, it's looking like it could be more likely that Aaron could just come back to Green Bay. I guess we'll find out whenever he decides to step out of the darkness in a few days, or if he's already out. Yeah, I think he might already be out. I don't know.
Yeah, because he said he was doing like what 4 days or 5 days, and
4 days.
that was Friday. So I mean, he should be out.
I wonder how that went. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. Hopefully on the Pat McAfee show sometime soon.
Yeah, because usually he's on Pat McAfee every Tuesday or every Thursday.
Every
Like that?
Tuesday, but Aaron Rodgers Tuesday for the season in theory should be over. But you never know. Aaron Rodgers could come on this upcoming Tuesday when the boys are back from vacation and tell them all about the darkness retreat. That's a possibility.
I'm seeing stuff where the Jets are targeting Derek Carr and Jimmy G. Like that's their two top guys right now. So
yeah, I know. Also, a couple of things we also had happen is the Titans were making some moves to free up cap space. Taylor Lewan, Robert Woods, Zach Cunningham, and Randy Bullock, all cap casualties there. Kind of curious about Robert Woods and where he's going to go. I know the Bears were kind of sniffing around for some trade calls whenever he was on the trade block with the Rams, but just didn't pull the trigger. So, I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see the Bears maybe snag him for a deal and help him, have him help grow any young receivers that we end up drafting and stuff like that. And Taylor Lewan, I'll be honest, we'll see if he retires or not. I know he's been kind of chat about it a few times on Bussin' with the Boys. So we'll see if he actually retires or not.
yeah. Also, what intrigued me, which I don't think they played together. It could have been maybe their freshman year or whatever, but if I'm not mistaken, so I saw this rumor that the Bears, if they trade down, they'll get multiple firsts for that pick or
Yeah.
whatever. So I saw this thing where they could potentially grab somebody, and then with their second first round pick, grab Nigba or whatever his name is from Ohio State, and team him up with Justin Fields.
Oh, Jackson, whatever,
Yeah,
Smith. I wish
Jackson Smith Nigba.
I wish Jacob was here to correct us on how to pronounce it.
Yeah,
but,
he's probably gonna listen to this and be like, they're butchering it.
It's like they're fucking it up like they always do. Look, if you listen to AniMan Plus, I have a history of messing up names consistently, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, yeah, I'm still in the boat that it's not going to shock me as a Bears fan if the Bears trade down twice. I'm gonna be real with everyone. I don't see it an unlikely thing. I think it's more likely than we're gonna just trade down a couple picks, and I still think it's the Colts. I really do. If the Colts had a brand new GM, I'll be real. I don't think the Colts would swing that hard to get to the number one pick. You know what I mean? Fresh GM, fresh head coach. They got the fresh head coach now. But if they had a brand new GM, brand new head coach, I don't think they would swing to the fences to try to get like the number one overall pick. But since it's Chris Ballard still, and like I've said before, this man knows he's on the hot seat. I still think the Colts are going to swing for the fences to get above the Texans so they can draft whoever they want. Or the Colts could just play it out and assume that the guy they want is going to be there at 4, which could be CJ Stroud or Levis. They only have one team to potentially contend with, and that'd be the Texans if the Bears keep the pick. I don't think they will, but I'm also going to throw this out there. It's not going to shock me if maybe Carolina swings for the fences and tries to get the number one overall pick. I know it's kind of a large little gap there from 1 to 9, but that's not going to shock me, honestly. It's really not. Because I think it's going to also depend on what Atlanta does. If Jacob's prediction ends up coming true and Atlanta gets Lamar, I don't think Carolina has anything to worry about. But if Atlanta doesn't get anyone, in my opinion, Atlanta's in the quarterback market. And if I'm Carolina, I want to get above Atlanta. In my mind, right? So you got a couple trade calls. You can potentially call Detroit. You can maybe call Seattle. And then of course call Chicago. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like I said, and you're right, Shane. I definitely think the Bears are going to. I think they're going to get a hell of a pull in for that number one overall pick. It's just going to be who's going to swing the fences. Who's going to give us the king's ransom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, I still think it's gonna be the Colts just because
I do too.
I mean, me and you both were very high on the Colts this year
Yep.
because we figured, okay, they now have Matt Ryan. Like we know that he's not the quarterback that he used to be, but he should be that guy to get them over the hump. Unfortunately, he wasn't.
That was our bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they still have all those same pieces. Like,
Yep.
when you have that offensive line that they have Jonathan Taylor, that you have Michael Pittman Jr. Um, like, and you have a top 10 defense,
Yep.
top 15 defense. Like, you're in a prime position to make a championship push. And if it's that quarterback piece that you're missing, like. I mean, why not fucking swing for the fences, to be honest?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, I think Bryce is probably the best, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the draft this year. So it's like either now or never because you never know what's going to come from next year. So,
Yeah. No, this draft
I
for
mean,
quarterbacks is really fascinating because the top 4 guys that everyone's chatting about, you have Bryce Young, who has the on the field tape, right? But you have to worry about his size. Like he's listed as 6 foot, 190, I think is what I saw with Alabama, but everyone thinks he's like 5'10. So we'll see what he's at the combine. But it's like if he weighs in at like 5'10, 185, then we got an issue, right? Then you have CJ Stroud, who has the size and has shown flashes, like in that Georgia game where he played the top defense in the country, the national championship defense, back to back, and looked like a superstar in that game, right? But it's just like that's not every game that he looks like a superstar. You know what I mean? Like it's just
yeah.
not. And then you have Will Levis, who has the size, who had good production the year before, pretty mediocre production this year. And then you have Anthony Richardson, which is he's got the size and the running playmaking ability, but he is the ultimate boomer bust. So this quarterback class is very fascinating, to say the least.
For sure.
I don't know. There's a part of me that I don't think Bryce can go number 1. I'm not gonna lie. That it depends. It depends on what I think. The size is gonna really come into play if he's gonna go number 1 or not. Like honestly, it won't shock me if it's Will Levis or C.J. Stroud at this point. If it's Anthony
I mean,
Richardson,
yeah,
I'm retiring.
I think if it's one of those, it's got to be CJ or Browse in my eyes. If
Yeah.
it's anybody else, you're out of your fucking mind.
If it's
But
Anthony Richardson, I'm retiring. I'm never doing draft stuff again. I'm done.
yeah,
That's it. I'm throwing in the towel. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna shit my pants if that happens.
hell, I may shit your pants.
That's how bad it is. Oh man. Let's see. Another thing I want to throw out there that I thought was kind of fascinating is apparently the Broncos, your Broncos, my friend, have had a conversation today with Matt Patricia for your DC. How you feeling about that one, buddy?
I don't necessarily love it or hate it, to be honest.
Okay, okay.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, because we all know Fangio's not going there.
Yeah. We know that's not happening. I think
So
there was all the reports he was going to Miami, but I don't think a deal ever officially got done. Because I think Vic even commented on that a deal wasn't done, but I don't know. Well, I'm assuming he's going to Miami. That's my assumption,
yeah,
unless the deal did get done and I missed it. Let's see. I don't know if I've got anything else. Let me take a look here. No, I don't think I have anything else. The only other thing which kind of sucks for Ricky and Jacob, depending on their opinion, is that the Cowboys are unlikely to tag tight end Dalton Schultz. In reference to that, I also saw where the Giants are unlikely to tag Saquon Barkley because they're just apparently too far off on a new deal, which could also be the thing with Daniel Jones. Apparently, Daniel Jones actually does want about like $40 million a year, which I think we can all agree he is not worth.
yeah. Sorry, got some. I got a text. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're good. But
Blew that up.
yeah, Daniel Jones potentially wanting 45 a year. I don't honestly. I'm gonna be real. I don't actually think that's an accurate report. I don't believe Daniel Jones would actually be commanding 45 a year. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he's a smart enough dude to have self-awareness, kind of like Saquon. Saquon had, he said in his post game press conference after the playoff loss, where it's like he had enough awareness where he wasn't trying to break the market or anything, but he still wants to be paid pretty well. I think Daniel Jones has enough self awareness where it's like he's shown a lot of flash over the past few years. This is his one good year under a brand new system. So I don't think honestly I don't believe in these reports that he wants 45 mil. But if they're true, oh man, he needs someone to set him down and be like, listen, bud, you need to chill.
Yeah, I saw some stuff of projected free agent deals that were gonna happen, and I saw that Daniel Jones one, and it was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I don't see Daniel Jones doing that. And then also I saw Jimmy G was gonna get he's been requesting 3 years 56, 60 plus $1 million, and I was like, I mean, that's what 28, 29 mil a year, but I don't really see you. I want to know these guys' insider reports and where they're getting these numbers from and where they're getting these so-called demands
Yeah.
from these players.
See, that's what I want to know too. Because like I said, I don't believe in that figure. I really don't. Yeah, that Daniel Jones commanding that. So I'm kind of with you on that. Something here I wanted to shout out because I just saw it. Yeah, I thought was funny. Posted about 44 minutes ago. Apparently, Seahawks cornerback Tariq Woolen was talking about Russell Wilson. It's like when you see him on TV, he looks like he's in shape, but you see him in person, it's weird. He looks like a sack of potatoes.
Oh no.
Oh man, that is harsh. And also shout out to BCS national champion quarterback T. Martin is getting moved from wide receivers coach to QB's coach in Baltimore. So shout out to him for that one. Let's see. Anyway, Shane, do you got anything else you want to shout out? If not, I feel like we can get into some player rankings.
Yeah, only thing I'm would be wanting to shout out would be draft stuff coming up, but that's for upcoming episodes, so I'm good to roll.
Okay, I do actually have one more thing. I want to put this out there before I forget about it because I would like to rectify something because I've been saying one particular narrative for at least 6 different times. I've said it over the past few months, and I've been spreading misinformation, and that's my fault. I didn't know that. So I've been talking. This is a college thing I want to throw out here. So obviously, if you listen to the show, I'm a Hawaii Rainbow Warriors fan. Go Bows! Basketball team's doing great right now. Shout out to that. As well, even the men's volleyball team as well, back-to-back national champions. Shout out to them. But I've been spreading this narrative for a while that the former Aloha Stadium that hosted the Pro Bowl and hosted the Bows is getting under construction, kind of getting revamped. That is incorrect. That's on me. I didn't know that. What's actually I found this out just earlier because of the circle that I'm in of Hawaii fans that live in Hawaii. They were posting about the Aloha to Aloha Stadium event that's taking place in 3 days, where it's essentially like the farewell to Aloha Stadium. So what's actually happening is a whole brand new stadium from scratch is getting built and set to begin construction here early 2023. And the former Aloha Stadium that we know and love is getting torn down, and they're going to be building basically restaurants and hotels and stuff in that area. So just wanted to rectify that because I've been saying for a while that, oh yeah, Aloha Stadium, it just had a bunch of safety issues and it's dated and they're going to revamp it and it's going to reopen in a few years. That's incorrect. It's just a whole new stadium. So that's on me for spreading misinformation on that front. I wanted to rectify that. I saw that earlier and I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean this stadium's getting torn down? I thought they were pimping it out, New stadium's cool though, New stadium's cool. When that happens, I'm telling you, they need to bring the Pro Bowl back to Hawaii. Need to. So hopefully that's going to happen. All right, let's get into player ranks. Shane, where do we want to start on this list? How much do you have? How much did you do?
I've got quarterback, running back, receiver, and offensive line, and that's it.
Okay, I've got basically everything. So if you want me to, I can run through some of mine that you don't have. And while I'm at it, I will also pull up.
Because I'm okay with just whimming it off of yours. And I've got stuff pulled up as well, so it's not gonna be a complete whim, but I've got stats and rankings and stuff pulled up.
Okay, so Ricky sent me some, right? And he sent me a general defensive ranking where it's 5 defensive players that he ranked out there for me. So for him, he has number 5, Nick Bolton, linebacker from KC. Number 4, Micah Parsons, edge rusher, linebacker from Dallas. Myles Garrett at 3, Nick Bosa 2, and Foraside Olukun from Jacksonville at number 1, middle linebacker, who led the league in combined tackles and led the league in solo tackles. He had a great year, I will say. I feel like he's one of the guys that a lot of people overlooked, in my opinion. I'm not going to say he's an all-pro this year or anything, because when it comes to that linebacker position, there's definitely some other players that I understand why they got all-pro, but at least a Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? Give him a Pro Bowl nod. I do feel like he played really well this year. So for me, for defensive rankings, I'll start with DB. Let me get some defensive stats here pulled up so I can back up a couple of takes that I have here. So I'll start at the top because I feel like the top is pretty straightforward. Number 1 for me, I've got Minkah Fitzpatrick, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowler. This dude I think had 6 picks for the year. Let me sort that real quick to confirm that, so I'm not lying on it. I'm not lying to anyone. Yeah, he had 6 picks for the year. He was a shutdown dude. He did well in the tackle category as well with 96 combined tackles, 56 solo. He overall has had a good year, and dude, he's been good for the past few years. I mean, and he, in my opinion, had one of his better years this year. And then coming in at number 2, rookie Sauce Gardner, baby. I don't feel like anyone can disagree with that too. Sauce had a shutdown year, and arguably you could consider him the best DB from this past season. Like legit. Like Sauce had a shutdown year. For my number 3, this dude, he was first team All-Pro, Pro Bowler, and I still feel like no one's talking about him because of like other people on his team. And I get that, but it's like, let's talk about this dude some more. And I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Talanoa Hufanga, safety with San Francisco. Again, this is a second-year player, all first team All-Pro, Pro Bowler, 4 interceptions, 97 combined tackles, 66 solo tackles. He had 2 forced fumbles. He got the 5 tackles for loss, pretty good for a safety, all things considered. But like, I feel like no one's talking about him. I don't feel like anyone in the DB world. I don't feel like anyone's talking about him, at least that I've seen. Obviously he gets the nods that he deserves, but I don't feel like not a lot of people are talking about him as they should, even though he has the accolades to back it up. You know what I mean? Which is wild to me that I don't see anyone mention him on social media. Maybe I'm in the wrong circle. Maybe I'm in the wrong circle where I'm not seeing him being mentioned, but that's wild to me. Tariq Woolen as well. Cornerback from Seattle, also another rookie who just played really well this year. Seattle definitely got a good one with him for sure. And then my 5th best DB from this past season, not Jalen Ramsey, not J.R. Alexander, not Patrick Peterson, not Justin Simmons, which Justin Simmons was damn close to hitting my top 5. I will say that. But it's actually Jalen Petier. I don't know if I pronounced his last name correct either. Houston defensive back. This is another guy I don't feel like anyone is freaking talking about. No Pro Bowl, no first team, no All-Pro, of course. But he had 5 interceptions. He started all 17 games. He had 147 combined tackles, 99 solo tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and he had a fumble recovery. And again, no one's talking about this dude, even though he is up at the top of the category in interceptions. He was up at the top of the list in combined tackles out of defensive backs. Up at the top of the list of solo tackles of defensive backs. He's got the tackles for losses, which 5 tackles for loss for a DB is pretty good for a DB. They're not always obviously rushing. They're focusing on pass protection. So this dude played phenomenal this year for Houston, but because of Houston is so damn bad, no one's talking about him. There are other players who obviously played pretty well this year. Justin Simmons, safety with Denver. He had 6 picks on the year. That's tied for first between him and Tariq and Minkah and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I know I excluded C.J. Gardner-Johnson from this list. It was kind of tough to do so, but Jalen honestly kind of really forced my hand to put him up there. Patrick Peterson still played this year, played well this year for an older guy, 32 years old, started all 17 games, 5 picks, had a lot of tackles, had, overall good year there as well. Harrison Smith in Minnesota, both of those guys, older dudes in Minnesota, Harrison and Patrick, and they both played awesome. Both had 5 picks apiece, which is, up at the top part of the league for interceptions. There's a lot of notable names across the board. That's played pretty well for this past season. But, I mean, I definitely wanted to throw Jalen on that list because the fact that no one talks about Jalen besides, Houston Texans fans is honestly baffling to me. You know what I mean? Baffling. But that's my top 5, personally.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was, to be
Exactly.
honest.
Like, no one's
So,
talking about. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a fucking genius. I didn't even know who he was. I missed this guy. He fell under the radar for me. I only found out about him when I started working on this list. And I checked out his stats. I started watching some tape, and I'm just like, how is no one talking about this guy? Like, it blows me away.
my top five, I'm gonna go from 5 to 1. Little bit of I had a different couple of different guys here at 5, that I could kind of toss in there. Darius Williams from Jacksonville, Asante Samuel Jr. from
He did have a good year.
the Ch-
Asante did have a good year.
from Chargers. But I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm going to go number 5, Tariq Woolen from Seattle.
Fair. Good year.
I thought he had a pretty damn good year for. I mean, really, not even me coming into this year, not even really knowing who he was. And then 4, I'm gonna go Michael Davis from the Chargers. 3, Darius Slay from, of course,
True.
Philadelphia. 2, James Bradbury from also Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And my number 1 will be Sauce Gardner. He absolutely balled out this year.
No Minka though. Interesting.
It's just, I don't know. I'm not. I guess that's also some bias because
Yeah,
I mean, I guess he was one that I was kind of inkling there in 5 and 4, but you know,
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can sway your pick and you put Jalen up in there because he deserves it.
yeah, definitely. Like honestly, like you were naming out those stats, and I was like, damn, he had a damn good year.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, out of DBs, he's number 1 on combined tackles. The next highest DB for combined tackles is Jonathan Owens from Houston as well, ironically enough. And then for solo tackles, he's also leading all the DBs in solo tackles. And I know tackles is not the all in be all for DBs and stuff because honestly, it could be considered almost a bad statistic because it's like you're letting people get the ball that puts you in a position to get tackles. But at the same time, you look at how bad that team is. No one on that defense is a star. I mean, Derek Stingley had a pretty decent year for him, their first round draft pick. But like, I mean, also on the flip side though, I mean, let's point out the fact that Jalen had 5 interceptions leading up in the upper portion of the NFL. I mean, like, and then let's look at his counterpart, Jonathan Owens, that I just mentioned, who also has a lot of tackles. He has no interceptions from this past year. So, you could say Jonathan Owens would be getting burned and Jalen's not. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think Jalen had a great year and no one's talking about him, which is unfortunate. So, let's see. Let's go linebacker. Let's hit linebacker. So for me, I'll go from 5 to 1 on this one because I'll just do it this time. So number 5 for me, I'm gonna have to saddle up with Ricky on this one with Nick Bolton. Like I said, when it comes to this linebacker rating, though, it's the way we're doing is that it counts as like the outside linebackers, middle linebackers, as well as like the edge rush linebackers. It's all just one category, which is kind of unfair for some guys. I won't. I'm not going to be stupid about that. I'll be very transparent. It's kind of unfair for some guys, but it is what it is. It's a terrible football show. This is what you get. So number 5 for me, Nick Bolton, middle linebacker from from KC. I think he had an incredible year for multiple reasons. I mean, he was second in the league in combined tackles at 180, and he was on the upper portion of the league as well. Second in the league for solo tackles, 9 tackles for loss, pretty good there. 72 assist tackles. Started all 17 games, 2 interceptions, couple sacks to boot. I mean, he had a solid year for a middle linebacker. You know what I mean? This is a good year for a middle linebacker, truth, being completely honest. Next up for me, I have Matt Judon with New England. Started 15 of 17 games. He racked up 15 and a half sacks, 60 combined tackles, 36 solo, 14 tackles for loss. Overall pretty solid year in that capacity. A couple forced fumbles to boot as well. Number 3, my guy Roquan Smith. It took him leaving Chicago to finally get recognized and get an All-Pro and get a Pro Bowl. For everyone that has not paid attention to Roquan because the Bears sucked, The stats that he did this year, he does every freaking year, and he has been overlooked consistently. So I'm so happy for him to finally get the recognition that he deserves with first team All Pro, with the Pro Bowl, 3 interceptions at middle linebacker, 169 nice combined tackles, 103 solo tackles, 11 tackles for loss. Roquan Smith and CJ Mosley, not CJ Mosley, he used to be a Raven, my bad. I forgot who his counterpart is in Baltimore. But no, Roquan Smith crushed it this year. Great trade for Baltimore. Number 2, of course, Micah Parsons. Kind of hard not to include him on this list. He may not have had the year he had last year, but he still had just an absolutely unbelievable year at being the dominant force that he is at 13.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, started every game. He's got some forced fumbles under his belt as well. And then the number 1 linebacker for me, Hassan Reddick. What a year he had for Philly, bro. 16 sacks, 49 tackles, 35 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 11 tackles for loss, 26 QB hits. I mean, this dude had a hell of a year. You know what I mean? For coming back, being pretty average for Arizona, and then coming over to Philly and just having an explosive year. But those are my linebacker picks.
So mine's kind of similar in a sense. A lot of those guys are on my list.
Yeah.
So I have Judah on 5 as well. I have where is it? I had Nick Bolton also 3. I don't know why I can't find my 4 because I'm looking through a spreadsheet on the NFL rankings.
A couple more names to shout out as well. Daniel Hunter and Zadarius Smith, both in Minnesota. They had good years too.
So I had Hicks number 1 as well. Nick Bolton was 3. Judon was 5. I had Foy
Olulukun, yeah.
Yeah, I had him 2.
It honestly killed me not to have him on my list. I'll be honest with you.
I had Roquan 4. I'm tripping. I had Roquan 4.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So Judon, Roquan, Nick Bolton, Foy, and then Hicks.
Like, all the praise I just said about Olukun a minute ago when Ricky had him on his list, and I'm not having it was tough for me not to put him on my list. But since the linebacker category is a mix of like pass rushers, like the edge rusher, outside line, and middle, I mean, in terms of overall stats across the board, while Olukun led the league in combined tackles and solo tackles, and that's great. Then you have Nick Bolton, who's putting up stats in other categories. You have Roquan Smith putting up 3 interceptions as well. So I mean, there are other statistics that go into play for me. Like Olukun, to me, in terms of like true like middle linebackers, he would have been the 3rd best for me. I consider Roquan number 1, obviously with how my rankings went, and then Nick Bolton the 2nd best, and Olukun would have been 3rd. But you look at my list and I got 3 pass rushers on there. So it was a tough list where a couple guys were going to have to unfortunately not make the cut. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's something we may change next year when we do these. Is we may separate like the outside linebacking, like pass rushers, and the middle linebackers. Let the middle linebackers shine.
Maybe. Yeah, for sure. Maybe have different categories, separate them out a little bit.
We want to be lazy this year. I'll be very transparent.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when we just agreed upon this last week. For everyone listening, we just established we were doing this last week. Like I think it was like after the show last week. You're like, all right, yeah, we want to do this. Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it this way. All right. Anyway, next up, let's hit D line, which does include defensive end, nose tackle, and D tackle. Which that one I think is fine. I don't think we need to separate that one. If I'm gonna be real, they all have the same job for the most part. I mean, like, yeah, you got guys who are focused on the run, but they're all doing the same job essentially. You know what I mean? Trying to dominate the O line. So I feel like that one will probably keep it how it is, but linebacker we might separate it out. I don't know. We'll see. So I will go from 5 to 1. Number 5 for me, I got the big man, the big D tackle, Quinnen Williams up in New York for the Jets. Got a couple forced fumbles under his belt, 12 sacks, 28 QB hits, 12 tackles for loss, 55 combined tackles overall. Pretty solid year. First team All Pro. as well as a Pro Bowler. Shout out to him. Number 4, we got good old Max Crosby over in Vegas. 12 and a half sacks, 36 QB hits. Jesus Christ. Got 3 forced fumbles there, 89 combined tackles, which is really solid for a defensive lineman for sure. 22 tackles for a loss. Number 3, we got the other big man, the Super Bowl winning Chris Jones, first team All Pro there, Pro Bowler. Got a couple forced fumbles, 15 and a half sacks, 29 QB hits. Overall, good year for him for sure, as he normally has. And then number 2, we have the guy who is, for 2 years in a row, the top-rated edge rusher with Pro Football Focus, which with Myles Garrett up in Cleveland, which I feel like even though it's Myles Garrett, he's a Pro Bowl. And so I don't feel like there was a lot of chatter about Myles Garrett this year because I feel like obviously with Cleveland, there's other conversations being had. You know what I mean? So even though he had a great year, I don't feel people talked about him as normal as they do. But again, it's because with Cleveland, you kind of had a different talking point. You know what I mean? So he may have gotten a little overlooked.
He wasn't hitting people with helmets.
Yeah, that's also true. He wasn't beating people up with a helmet, leaving a dent in their head. But either way, 16 sacks, tied with Hassan for second most in the league this year. 26 QB hits, 60 combined tackles, a couple forced fumbles under his belt. And then honestly, it's honestly kind of hard not to put the defensive player of the year at number 1, Nick Bosa. Led the league with 18 and a half sacks. That's incredible. But also what's incredible is that you look at just how many times this man got to the QB, passing the second place guy with QB hits being Max Crosby at 36 by over 10. Nick Bosa with 48 QB hits. That's unreal. I feel bad for those QBs. A couple forced fumbles under his belt as well. I mean, in my opinion, for D-line, it's kind of tough not to put Nick Bosa at number 1, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go 5-1 as well. 5 was tough. I was choosing between 3 different guys: Christian Wilkins, Brian Burns, and what I ended up settling with my number 5, Aiden Hutchinson, coming into his rookie year.
He almost made it into my list.
Played 15 games. 17 assisted tackles, 9.5 sacks. And then number 4 is going to be Chris Jones. Can't leave him out. I mean, it was tough, frankly, because you also got Cameron Hayward, who had hell of a year. But yeah, Chris Jones 4. And then after that is pretty simple. Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I feel like both of ours for D-line is honestly pretty straightforward for the most part. I mean, it was kind of hard not to, you know what I mean? It was all pretty straight. I feel like yours is more spicy than mine. Mine is very basic. Mine's very basic. Yours is a little bit more spicy.
Just with what Aiden did at 5, did his rookie year. 9.5 sacks as a rookie. And I don't have the full-on stats like quarterback pressures and stuff in front of me here, but people were scheming away from him in his rookie year, and that's just a big impact on the field. So I at the end of the day, I couldn't leave him out. And then honestly, my next 4 was just pretty plain and simple: Chris Jones, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa. So.
Yeah. All right, let's head over to offensive line, which I got to say, I feel like it was a lot harder to find any sort of statistics on O-line than I feel like it's ever been before. I feel like in years past, I've always been able to find offensive line stats of how many sacks allowed, how many quarterback pressures he's got. I had a very difficult time finding a place to get me some stats. I genuinely did. So my list is unbelievably basic, but I have the true number 1 at number 1, and that's all that matters. So for me, I got Zach Martin at 5, Creed Humphrey at 4, Jason Kelsey at 3, Trent Williams at 2, and the absolute madman, the beast that he was this year, not allowing a single sack all year long, Lane Johnson with Philadelphia. I mean, he, in my opinion, was the best offensive line from this past year. I mean, he had a beast of a year. But I had a tough time getting some stats together. I don't know. It was hard. What are you looking like over there?
Yeah, mine's mine's simple, really. So I've got Lane Johnson 1, Ronnie Stanley 2, David, how do you pronounce it?
Bakhtiari.
Bakhtiari 3, Creed Humphrey 4, and then I've got um, Landon Dickerson number 5.
Oh, okay.
So just kind of picked like the top guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I was honestly really debating putting Kelsey there, to be honest, just because of it being Jason Kelsey. But
Right.
but yeah, I just picked some of the top guys, and then yeah, I was in the kind of the same boat. It was hard for me to find any kind of stats. Like I found like Pro Bowl voting and shit like that, but I wasn't able to find like the stuff that actually meant, shit to actually determine what was going on. But I mean, yeah, I think without a doubt, Lane Johnson was by far the best O-line player in the league. I mean, not allowing a sack or a hit all season long
is unreal.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the stat that I just pulled up here. He only surrendered a total of just 9 hurries across 600 pass blocking attempts.
Yeah.
So that's fucking insane. But yeah, so I just kind of picked the top players from the top kind of 4 or 5 offensive lines in the league. So
nice. All right, let's head over to tight end, which I do have from Ricky, so I'll shout out his. He's got Evan Ingram from Jacksonville at number 5, George Kittle from San Fran at 4, Mark Andrews from Baltimore at 3, TJ Hawk the Cock Hawkinson from Minnesota at 2, and of course Travis Kelce at 1. If anyone on this show, any 4 of us, does not put Travis Kelce at 1, I'm going to seriously question a lot of things, even if it is a terrible football show, because his stats are too good. You know what I mean? Like, this man was a beast in both blocking and receiving. Like, come on now. For me, I actually have Mark Andrews coming in at 5 for me. Obviously I feel like with some injury issues to Lamar Jackson definitely hurt him in the stat category in a couple ways, not passing over 1,000 yards, or even getting closer to 100 catches, coming in at 73 catches, 847 yards, 5 TDs, but a catch completion percentage for him at a 64.6%. Obviously, he's still a great tight end. He's one of the better ones in the league. Obviously, probably a lot of people consider him, in the top 5 for sure. Once you also think about like Darren Waller and stuff, and he still had a pretty good year, all things considered. So number 4 for me, and this is where my list could be a little spicy, just because while his stats are on the lower end in some other categories compared to these other tight ends, he had a lot of TDs. In terms of tight ends, he was second most in the league, and that's George Kittle with San Fran. 60 catches, 765 yards, 11 TDs. I mean, obviously he was great in the red zone in that capacity. For a catch percentage completion, 69.8% of passes completed heading his way. For number 3 for me, this is where I feel like I'm a little bit spicy because I don't know if he should be this high. I just feel like he is because of what he meant for the team, and that's going to be Evan Ingram for Jacksonville, who never really panned out for the Giants when this is his first year in Jacksonville on a 1-year deal, and he did play really well with 73 catches, 766 yards, only 4 TDs though, so that's where you could question the credibility of him being there. Might drop him down to like 5 or something. But he did have a pretty high catch completion percentage at 74.5%. Out of the starting tight ends, I did a quick glance. That's among some of the tops. One of the only main starters I saw that was above him was Dallas Goedert with Philly, as well as I think one of their tight ends. So he's among the top of tight ends in that category of just completion percentage. But then at number 2, I do have TJ Hawk the Cock Hawkinson. 86 catches, 66.7% completion percentage when thrown to him, 914 yards, 6 TDs. He had an excellent year going over to Minnesota. He had a good start of the year with Detroit and then finished off incredible with Minnesota. And then, I mean, Jesus Christ, how can you not put Travis Kelce at number 1? I mean, dude had 110 catches, over 70% catch completion, 12 TDs, over 1,300 yards. Like, come on, man. You can't not put Travis Kelce at number 1. He's also good in the blocking game. He loves blocking. I mean, number 1 tight end. Honestly, I was talking to my buddy Steve, who pops in from time to time. I was talking to him about it. At this point, I would go ahead and say, go ahead and just crown Travis Kelce as the greatest tight end of all time. I know it's still early in his career. I get that. But, like, dude, you're just waiting for the inevitable at this rate. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but you are. That's my opinion. Just go ahead and give him the crown. By the time he retires, he will be the greatest tight end in NFL history. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me. It's early. I mean, I would agree just from the production that he's done since he's been in the league. But honestly, dude, it's hard for me to say that just due to sentimental reasons, like to previous tight ends. Man, you
Shout
got
out to Tony
Antonio
G.
Gates, Tony Gonzalez.
I
I
know.
mean, there's been so many really
Kellen
good
Winslow
tight ends.
Sr. I get it. I get it.
So it's tough for me to go ahead and say that now.
I
But
get it.
honestly, I mean, I would have to agree. I mean, by the time he retires, this dude's gonna put up receiver type numbers.
Yes.
And he is still a guy that like you said, he enjoys blocking. I mean,
Yes,
there was
exactly.
there was a run play this year where he pancaked a cornerback, and the entire time he's laughing he's laughing because he's just enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
So
Him and Kittle both love blocking, man. Like, they love it.
So I mean, I guess it helps when your brother's a top center
Yeah,
you know,
true.
in the league as well.
True.
So I'm gonna go from 5-1 as well.
5 to Travis Kelce. Got it.
I mean, yeah, one's Travis Kelce, of course, but so 5 was hard for me.
I agree.
Because I was gonna in between Evan Ingram and Dallas Goedert. And stat wise, Dallas Goedert only played 12 games compared to Evan Ingram's 17. Also, Dallas Goedert only had 150 less yards and only had one less touchdown and was averaging almost a yard and a half more per catch. And like you said earlier, his catch percentage was up there in the tops of the league. So I ended up, it really is like 5A and 5B for me, but Dallas Goedert made the spot. At 5, George Kittle 4, Mark Andrews 3, TJ Hawkinson 2, and Travis Kelce number 1.
Okay. All right, let's hit wide receivers. So I do have Ricky's as well, so I'll shout his out. Let me pull. All right, so for him, he has number 5 with A.J. Brown, number 4, Stephon Diggs, 3, Devontae Adams, 2, Tyreek Hill, and 1, Justin Jefferson. Good list. Like that list. For me, all right, let me get my stats kind of reorganized here. For me, I have the league-leading touchdown catcher with Devontae Adams at 5. And I know he's got 100 catches. I know he's got over 1,500 yards. So it's just like, man, this really is a terrible football show if he's got him at number 5. And you're right, it is a terrible football show. Thank you for listening. But there are a couple things that put a couple of the other guys ahead of him for me. And one of the things that put Devontae Adams a lot lower for me, and I know you can credit this in so many ways: good protection, people being hated, hate on Derek Carr. I'm not one of those people that's going to brutally bury Derek Carr or anything. But one of the biggest contributing factors that put him lower for me, he has a 55% completion when passing to Devontae. And I get it's Devontae. I get it. It's Devontae freaking Adams. You're going to put strong protection on him. But, the catch percentage is, that's something that did put him lower for me. Am I wrong for doing that? Well, probably. He should probably be higher on my list. But, me taking that as, one of the down factors for him, like, is it a little fucked up? Yeah, maybe just a bit. A lot of his yards, his yards per reception is pretty high, which tells me that a lot of the receptions he got were just from some pretty solid passes at 15.2. I don't think it's not leading the league. Jalen Waddle's leading the league by a decent little amount, but he's in the top 10 in that category at least. So I feel like it could be a little spicy putting Devontae as low as he is, especially above some of the other guys that I've got, including my number 4, which may be one of the more shocking picks to put in top 5 best wide receivers from this past year for someone. But for me, I'm actually putting Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver from Detroit. I feel like he had a coming out party this year for him. He had over 100 catches. He had a 72% completion rating when passing to him. Over 1,100 yards, 6 TDs. I just feel like he had a really strong coming out year personally. Him being above Devontae, is that a hot take? Yeah, it probably is. I would firmly say that's a hot take, and I acknowledge that. But I just really like the production that he put out for this year. Number three, I feel like, in my opinion, from this past NFL season, 3 to 5 can be all over the place. You know what I mean? But I feel like 1 and 2, I feel like everyone will pretty much agree upon. Number three, I have Stephon Diggs. An incredible year from him, of course, being Allen's number one weapon. 108 catches, 70% catch rating. Over 1,400 yards, over 11 TDs. Shout out to that. And then number two, Tyreek Hill, of course, and number one, Justin Jefferson. Kind of tough not to put them two at 1 and 2, respectively, just from the sheer amount of catches and yards they both had. They both had about pretty much the same catch completion at 70%, basically. Justin at a 69, Tyreek at a 70. But both averaging basically the same yards per catch, both averaging almost the same yards per games, which is, by the way, the only receivers from this past NFL season to have over 100 yards average a game. The next highest at number 3 would be Cooper Kupp before he got hurt at 90 yards a game average. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of tough to not put Justin and Tyreek 1 and 2. I feel like 3 to 5 are the ones that get kind of spicy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, where's someone going to put whoever? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I did have Devontae originally. So this was the second category I did. So of course I did quarterbacks first, and I did receivers, running backs, and then O-line. And I kept bouncing back and forth here. Because I did see that Devontae Adams stat of 55% percentage of catching the ball when thrown to or whatever. But I mean, again, you got to recognize. I mean, he is knowingly. I mean, Renfro had a pretty good year with them. Josh Jacobs is a pretty good receiving back, but at the end of the day, like, it's Devontae fucking Adams.
Exactly.
Like,
That's why I feel kind of bad putting him as low as I did.
You're gonna pretty much throw everything there at him, but I'm gonna have actually AJ Brown 5, Devontae Adams 4, and then Stephon Diggs 3, Tyreek Hill 2, Justin Jefferson 1. 5 was really hard for me because you have Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Amon St. Raw. That was or Ross St. Brown that was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and of course CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee Lamb had 107 catches for 1,400 yards and pretty much 10 touchdowns. And 24. Yeah. So I mean, it was tough. But that's gonna be my top 5. But yeah, I think if you don't put Tyreek or Justin 1 and 2, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same thing. Honestly, it's the same thing with Travis Kelce. If you don't put him at like 1 and 2, you are literally out of your mind, dude. And you should not be allowed to have an opinion. Oh man! All right, let's go to running backs here. We're almost done with the list here. So for Ricky threw out there Saquon Barkley at 5, Nick Chubb 4, Derrick Henry 3, Jamal Williams at 2, which I love that pick. Jamal almost made it in my top 5. I will not lie. I would say, honestly, Shane, I don't know about you, out of every position we did, running back was the hardest for me by far. Like, I'm talking by far. I had the most candidates. I could fill out a top 10 for you. Like, I had the most. I was like, man, I don't want to miss him out. I don't want to not include him. Like, but I like the Jamal Williams pick, league leader in touchdowns for this past season. So a rushing touchdown, shout out to that. And then Josh Jacobs at 1, which I'm not going to sit here and hard cement Josh Jacobs in the same category as like a Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. But in terms of strictly running backs of 2022, I do feel like Josh Jacobs is in that category of where I feel like he is the surefire number one, just based on the statistics that he has of over 1,600 rushing yards leading the league, 12 TDs, almost 100 yards a game average, which he did lead the league in that. I feel like it's kind of hard not to include him at number 1. I feel like you can make a debate for maybe Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I'm actually kind of not as high on because his yards average is 4.4 compared to like Nick Chubb's 5 yards an average, Josh Jacobs 4.9. But at the same time, Derrick Henry did average 96.1 yards a game. So my top 5, which I got to say I'm making a little bit of an adjustment on the fly here. I'm not even going to lie to you on that. So my number 5, personally, I'm going to put Saquon Barkley. I feel like he had a great rebound year for him. Over 1,300 yards, 10 TDs, 82 yards a game average, only 1 fumble. So that's a good statistic there. I love to see that. And all on 295 attempts. So I feel like he had a good comeback year for him. Number 4, I'm actually going to put the king, Derrick Henry, at number 4. I get it. Over 1,500 yards, 13 TDs, 96.1 yards, but he also had 6 fumbles. He only averaged 4.4 yards a run. Great year for Derrick Henry, Pro Bowler. I get he's still King Henry and he's going to put up those stats, but I just don't think he's the bona fide number 1 this year. I don't think he's the top 3 this year. My number 2, I'm going to put I'm going to get a little spicy on these next 2. I'm not going to lie to anyone here. I'm going to get a little spicy, and I'm sorry. Number 2, I'm going to put Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb at 2. So then leaves the big question, who's number 2? Who's number 2? Nick Chubb's at 3? Nick Chubb's at 3? Who's 2? We're going to get there. Nick Chubb at number 3. I think I said 2 a second ago, so I apologize. Over 1,500 yards, 12 TDs, 89.7 yards average. Only 1 fumble. Love to see that. He had a great year, and even that 1 fumble, I feel like that could also be very, very counterproductive to the argument I'm going to try to make for my number 2 best running back from this year that no one's talking about. But I have multiple reasons why I want to put him at number 2. And I feel like you could swap him down to 3. I feel like 3 could be a better spot for him and Nick Chubb be 2. But number 2, I'm going to actually put Austin Eckler. And I have my reasons for it. Austin Eckler did not eclipse 1,000 yards. I'm aware of that. He had 915. He started all 17 games. He had 13 rushing TDs, though. Shout out to that. In terms of rushing TDs, that's among the top 3. That's tied for second, actually, among Jalen Hurts and Derrick Henry. Jamal Williams at 17 is number 1. Austin Eckler, 5 fumbles. Hate to see that, but, unfortunately, it is what it is. Yards per game average, not that high either, 53.8. So, Alex, why would you put Austin Eckler at number 2? That's because he's an ultimate weapon. He had 107 receptions with a catch percentage of 84.3%, which ranks among the highest in the league. 722 yards with 5 TDs to boot on that. Look, I understand that it's like, that, again, I feel like that's a hot take. Nick Chubb should probably be number 2 here and Austin be 3 or 4. But, I mean, this is some solid production here. With over 100 catches with a completion percentage of 84.3%. Again, it's a terrible football show. You're going to get what you get. And then number 1, Josh Jacobs, of course. Like I said, I feel like for this season, kind of tough not to put him at number 1, but I feel like you could make arguments for Nick Chubb. I feel like Nick Chubb could make an argument for number 1 as well. But that's mine. That's my spicy take for my running backs that I'm probably wrong on. But again, it's a terrible football show.
Yeah. Honestly, I left Austin Eckler out of my top 5.
I don't blame you.
It was hard. But
I ain't mad.
Looking at the two guys I have at 5 and 4. Bouncing back from the 2 previous years or longer. 5, you got Christian McCaffrey here, and 4, I've got Saquon Barkley. We all know Christian McCaffrey is also a do-it-all back. I don't have his receiving yards pulled up.
85 catches, 741 yards, 5 TDs, 78% completion. I just happen to have it here.
Yeah, so, and then he eclipsed, nearly 1,200 yards on the ground, 8 touchdowns, had 9 carries of 20-plus yards. And then for Saquon Barkley, again, almost hitting that 1,400-yard mark. And then I think 3, 2, and 1 is pretty self-explanatory. 3, I'm going to have Derrick Henry. 2, Nick Chubb. 1, Josh Jacobs.
No. Like I said, I fully acknowledge that my Austin Eckler take is probably a hot take and probably incorrect, but you know what? It's my take, and that's all that matters. It's all that matters to me, that is. All right, and then finishing off everything here with the quarterbacks. The most important position in the NFL, arguably. So let's start with Ricky's rankings. Number 5, he has Tua Tagovailoa. For Jared Goff, 3 Josh Allen, 2 Joe Burrow, and 1 Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of notable names not on that list. Jalen Hurts being one that I immediately look at. But overall, I don't disrespect this list, honestly, because I've got some similar names. So I'm actually going to go 1 to 5 on this one because my 1 and 2 are so straightforward. Number 1 for me, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Threw for over 5,200 yards, 41 TDs. He is the MVP and the Super Bowl MVP. I feel like it's kind of hard not to. Even if he would have lost, I feel like it's kind of hard not to. Jalen Hurts is my number 2. Incredible year, over 3,700 yards, 22 TDs, 6 picks. But then he also had all of the stats on the ground as well. So this is where I get a little spicy. I'm not even going to say a little spicy. I'm going to say a lot of spicy. My number 3 best quarterback from this past season is not Joe Burrow, is not Josh Allen's, but instead it is Jared Goff up in Detroit. All right. Look, here's my argument. Completion percentage with a 65.1 that's ranks among the not the top 10, but up in the upper echelon. For TDs, 29 TDs, 6 in the league for that. Tied up there with Kirk Cousins. Only 7 picks on the year. Okay. Yards per game, 261 average. I mean, that's top 10 in the league in that category. QB rating, he ranks in the top 10. He ranks coming at number 7 with a 99.3. I feel like people are sleeping on Jared Goff because it's Jared Goff and because it's the Detroit Lions. But I'm not joking, guys. It's not going to shock me if the Lions don't go quarterback in this upcoming draft and they keep running with Jared Goff. All right, that's just my own personal opinion on that. For my number 4, not Joe Burrow, not Josh Allen, but I got our comeback player of the year. I got Geno Smith, who led the NFL in completion percentage with a nice 69.8% completion percentage, beating out Joe Burrow, beating out Justin Herbert, beating out Matt Stafford, threw for over 4,200 yards, threw for 30 TDs to 11 interceptions, and was ranked at number 6 for QBR in the NFL. Look, Geno Smith, Pro Bowler, comeback player of the year. People are not sleeping on Geno. He kind of made more headlines than Jared Goff, of course. But he had a phenomenal year, and I think he needs to be in the conversation for best quarterbacks in 2022. And, I understand the desire to put Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or, Josh Allen up there, but I think the conversation needs to be had for Geno Smith as well. And then my number 5 is, in fact, agreeing with Ricky on this one with Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, he was in the headlines for the wrong reasons, the unfortunate reasons. But you take that out, and he still had an incredible freaking year with passing for over 3,500 yards, 25 TDs to only 8 interceptions. For QBR, he was among the top in the league, ranking at a 68.8% for completion percentage. He was a ranking among top in the league as well. Tua had a great year that was just unfortunately derailed by his concussions. He also led the league in quarterback rating, above Patrick Mahomes by just 0.3%. Tua at 105.5 and Patrick at 105.2. Again, it's a shame that the narrative for Tua was focused on what it was. Obviously T's and P's to him, but hopefully that does not take away from the play that he had this year. He had an incredible year, and I feel like Miami should feel pretty good about Tua as a player as long as he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, they should feel pretty good about where they're at quarterback for years to come. But that's my top 5.
Yeah. My biggest thing was it was tough for me not to put Aaron Rodgers in the top 5, to be honest. But the thing that hurt Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, he threw for 26 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I mean, that's almost 2 to 1. I don't care who you are, but you don't ever want to really see that, to be honest. But so 5, I do have Tua at 5, Geno at 4, Joe Burrow at 3. And then Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes 2 and 1.
And that's fair. I feel like that's a very fair ranking. I feel like I might be a little too high on Jared Goff. I just really like the way he played this year. I feel like he led in a lot of different categories. He made it back to a Pro Bowl, so shout out to him for that. But I feel like people are kind of sleeping on him a little bit. I feel like people really are sleeping on Jared Goff. Like I'm telling you guys, I don't think Detroit is going quarterback in the first. I don't think they're going Anthony Richardson with their second pick. I really don't. I don't think they're going quarterback second round. I don't think they're going quarterback third round. I mean, they were one game off from the playoffs, guys. This team needs a lot of help on defense. He could definitely use some more weapons outside of Amon-Ra, which, the weapon they did draft, he showed up at the last, few games he played. In the first round, they drafted not Jamal Williams, that's the running back. Jameson Williams, I think is his name, wide receiver from Alabama. They need some more help on the O-line. They need some more help on defense, and this team can be a real threat even with Jared Goff. So, I mean, I like Jared Goff for the Lions. I don't think he's going anywhere personally. That's just me, though. All right, so I think that's it. I think we got all of our player rankings. Shout out to that. I think we'll go ahead and look to wrap up the show now. Since it's off season, we're not trying to drag these shows out to be 2 hours or anything. We're hitting our main points and we're getting out of here and continue on with our day. So Shane, you got anything else involving our player rankings you want to shout out? There's a lot of players obviously that did not make our list that definitely deserve to get shout out, like a Tony Pollard. He almost made it in my top 5 for running backs. He had a good year. Shout out to him. There was a lot of good players across the league in multiple positions where it was kind of tough, and I felt bad leaving them out. But yeah, any other things that you want to shout out involving our player rankings or anything else that we have here for the show?
No, I mean I think it's pretty solid. I think it's I'd like to see what Jacob's going to be next week. See maybe if he can give us a little preview of what's going on.
Oh yeah, with his mock.
Yep. So and then I'm excited for I mean, we're 2.5 months away from the draft.
Yep.
Less than a month, little under a month until free agency.
Yep. Just a couple weeks.
Got some big stuff. Got some big stuff coming up. Waiting to see what Aaron Rodgers has come from his darkness retreat. I mean, season 3 is gonna be kicking off here shortly in the next couple of weeks, and I think it's gonna be a spicy start to season 3.
I think it is too, especially since one of the hosts of this show is a diehard Bears fan, and the Bears are supposed to be very active in free agency, so it's about to get spicy as shit for me. I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. Free agency coming along and everything. But if you made it all the way to the end, we do appreciate the hell out of you for that. We do appreciate all of the people subscribing here recently and following and stuff. All the shorts and TikToks are doing pretty well. It's like I've said before, I think on another show, it's very fascinating to watch, how one will do on TikTok versus one will do as a short. It's very fascinating, but I do appreciate everyone that's subscribing to the channel. If you could be a friend, tell a friend, of course, drop a like and all that stuff. And if you're listening to the audio format, wherever you're listening at, whatever platform, just make sure to rate it, follow it, whatever the platform allows. We definitely appreciate that. With all that said, we'll be back next week with Mock 2.0. Shane, you going to bring some spiciness?
For sure.
All right, bet. All right, guys, see you next time. Have a good one. See ya.
Patrick Mahomes to the Eagles.